Hey guys, welcome to the Bad Blood Football Podcast. On this episode, we'll be discussing the championship games from last weekend. So we're just going to start right away with this Titans and Chiefs matchup. The Chiefs were the favorites by pretty large margin. They took the game 35-24. It's pretty predictable if you ask me. It seems silly to say it because most people saw it from a mile away, but Rob and Dan actually both got this one wrong, even though the Chiefs have the best quarterback that the league has ever seen. At the end of the day, Ryan Tannehill looked like Ryan Tannehill. Pat Mahomes looked like Pat Mahomes, which is, pretty damn good. So I just want to know, Rob, what do you have to say for yourself? I told you last week that you should convert. You refused then, so I ask you again. Are you ready to repent and join the church of Pat Mahomes?
Who? Who is this Pat Mahomes fellow? He sounds like somebody from high school. Maybe he played quarterback. No, fuck that guy. He's overrated 100%. He doesn't deserve to be where he is right now. You mentioned that he's the best quarterback the league has ever seen. I'm sorry. Have you ever seen Tom Brady play? If I'm not mistaken, he is the greatest of all time. And Pat Mahomes is living in his...
I said the best, not the greatest.
Regardless, as of right now, Lamar Jackson is still 100% better than him. There is no way in the world that Kansas City and Pat Mahomes should be here right now. Andy Reid, a horrible coach, should not be here. Horrible in the playoffs. He's only a good regular season coach. Pat Mahomes is right there with him, and he's overrated. I think he just had two flukes of games right now. I mean, to be honest, he had 5 touchdowns last time, 4 touchdowns this game. I think it's he's going to hit a brick wall when he plays the 49ers, and we're just going to have to see.
Yeah, that's just crazy. What do you have to say to that, Dan? I don't even want to dignify that with a response. So
I was really looking forward to this game. I think out of the 2 games, this one was more exciting to watch because yet again the Chiefs had to come from a deficit and pull out the win. I am ready to join the church of Pat Mahomes. I mean, I think he's a great QB. I don't know if I definitely think Lamar's better, but I think he's one of the top 3 QBs. And I have to disagree with you on your opening statement, how you said Ryan Tannehill played like Tannehill, because he played completely opposite of what he's been playing the past 2 games. It's kind of like San Fran and Tennessee switched their offenses, because Garoppolo averaged the same average that Tannehill was averaging coming into this game. So it was kind of interesting to see these 2 teams take a different approach on this game. I think Tannehill did a great job on offense, passing over 200 yards for 2 touchdowns. Obviously, they couldn't pull it out because Derrick Henry did not perform anywhere close to what he performed in the past 2 games. I mean, only 69 yards and 1 touchdown with a 3.6 average. Not the best when you're looking at a guy who is getting around 180 yards per game. Although I did shout out A.J. Brown previously in the last episode, and I got to give him credit to Tannehill for opening up the field. Their offense was looking a hell of a lot better with the receivers, because he was throwing the ball out to 10 different receivers. His star receiver was Corey Davis. He got 5 receptions with 8 targets, but A.J. Brown was right there with him. And it's unfortunate that the Titans lost. I would have liked to see them win this one. Like I said, they were the most exciting team for me to watch, but good job, Chiefs.
Yeah. So I just don't think, if Mahomes had a performance like Tannehill did, we'd be saying a lot different things. We'd be saying how he sucks. It was good for Tannehill, but it wasn't real quarterbacks do a little better than that.
Sean, but, that may have been one of the worst statements you've ever made, ever. Ryan Tannehill, to be honest with you, I think Ryan Tannehill looked more like a actual quarterback than Pat Mahomes did.
I agree.
Pat Mahomes looked like he was playing backyard football. Granted, he might have had a better game, but I think Ryan Tannehill looked more like a professional in this game. He had more completions and passing yards than he did in both previous playoff games combined. I think he played fantastic. The QBRs don't say it. I think he was really accurate this game, throwing dimes. I think he looked better than he did all season long in this game. And Pat Mahomes, like I said, overrated. I think he just has weapons around him that allow him to play like that.
So rushing teams, usually teams like the Titans, they're supposed to be able to close out games if they get a lead. But in this one, they were up 10-0, and you'd expect someone like Derrick Henry to get better as the game goes on. The defense is going to start being kind of scared to tackle you. You're wearing him down. You're a heavy guy. But he had 19 carries. He only had 70 yards on the game. I feel like this guy, he choked harder than a porn star on Ron Jeremy's dick this game. So, how could this possibly have happened? What went wrong? Derrick Henry, 70 yards? What?
I think it was a combination of bad coaching calls from the offensive coordinator and poor blocking. Because I think that the offensive coordinator over there in Tennessee, I just don't think that he was consistent with what he was doing the last couple of games. They only had 23 rushing attempts, which was less than Kansas City's rushing attempts at 27. It's just not a game that they're used to playing. So, 70 yards, okay, that's only in pretty much only the first half, because they didn't really use Henry that much in the second half when they were trying to, recuperate points at the end of the game. And they put it more on Ryan Tannehill this game. And, obviously I think they did okay with that. But, they should have included Henry in a lot more late in the game because, if they would have started doing that and actually been able to block better, they would have worn that defense down. They had that 9-minute drive going in for their, get their second touchdown. That I thought at that point in time it looked like a wrap for the Chiefs if they could keep pulling off 9-minute drives and scoring touchdowns. It would have been really challenging for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs' quick score ability is always an issue in that situation, and in my opinion, I think it might be a detriment. However, not allowing that defense to get breaks is a problem against a rushing team. However, obviously, they were able to stop him because that offensive line was playing like booty cheeks. And, yeah, I thought the Chiefs were going to get maximum maybe 5 possessions because they had so much time. The Tennessee was burning so much time, especially on that one drive in the beginning of the game, that it would have been problematic. But they ended up getting 9 drives out of it, and obviously it helped them in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I agree with you that is on the coaching staff. I think going into this game, obviously everyone was looking at Ryan Tannehill's stats and his average of yards per game, and they kind of wanted to counter that and show that he can be a passer as well. So they did obviously decrease Derrick Henry's carries to 19. I think they definitely should have fed him the ball a lot more than that because he was going over 30 carries previous 2 games. So I think that kind of got away with them. It was good to see Tannehill open up the field, and they should have kind of stuck to their guns, although all the criticism is saying against Tannehill being a shitty QB. I don't care what you say, Sean. He did great this game. But they should have stuck to their guns. Derrick Henry's the man. He's the best rusher in the league right now, and they should have kept feeding him the ball. It's unfortunate that they didn't do much with him that game. Credit to Pat Mahomes. He is a great QB. And he was actually their leading rusher, which is not really surprising because their run game ain't the best. And Rob, you had a big shout out last week with Sammy Watkins, even though I underrated him. I didn't think he was going to perform that well in this game. How'd you feel about his performance? I
was going to say, because Sammy Watkins was his number 1 receiver, was he not?
Yes, he was.
So and I also brought up last week that Kelsey was going to have issues this week, and I do think that little injury kind of made him less productive than he used to be because he only had 3 catches for 30 yards on 4 different targets. So obviously he was not that involved in this game.
Yep. Just like Ertz was for the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking that Sammy Watkins being that because they ended up shutting Tyreek Hill down. He only had 67 yards. He did have 2 TDs, but It was on 5 receptions. I think Tyreek Hill being the fastest guy in the NFL, honestly, he should have been targeted more, and they just failed to do that.
So, were there any big key plays that stood out to you guys that gave the Chiefs the edge in this game? It seemed close at the start, but Chiefs just ran away with it. Was it big plays, or was it a series of little plays? What would you say?
Well, I would argue the Chiefs are just a big play machine. Because they were it had to have been less than 2 minutes of drive when they were scoring, and it was and I'll give Mahomes this. When he ran for 27 yards in that second quarter, where he escaped, I don't even know, five different defensive players to then tiptoe on the sidelines and begin the run of the 21 unanswered points. I don't understand how he did that, but I think that was probably their biggest accomplishment that game, and alongside that, the defense's ability to stop Derrick Henry's rushing attack, or at least stop the offensive coordinator from feeding him the ball, probably was another big key to why they won.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think I don't know. I just think Pat Mahomes is so good. He's such a playmaker that doesn't matter if they come out slow as shit the past 2 games. They're still a playmaking team. They always throw up points. I mean, I didn't expect. Well, I did actually. I expected them only to get 24 points, but shows that you can't always be right. I'm excited to see what they can do for the next game. I know they're going to probably produce the same. Do every possession almost touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. So I'm excited to see the matchup between.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I also want to give a little special shout out to Adam Humphries. I thought he had a very interesting performance. He had 4 catches, but like he had 2 catches that were converted for first downs on third down, and 1 for 1 on fourth down. So he seems to be a type of guy that you can rely on, and I think that that's very instrumental to have. He's kind of like an Edelman type player, when he doesn't have butterfingers, in my opinion. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's pretty important on a team that doesn't run the ball that much too, right? Like, it's a big deal. So let's go to this player of the game. I thought it was pretty obvious, but, given what Rob's been saying so far, I'm assuming he's going to pick someone other than Mahomes. So, go ahead. Tell me who your player of the game is.
So I'm going to have to go with Ryan Tannehill. I'm just fucking around. Obviously Pat Mahomes. He played well this game. You can't really give it to anybody else because the running back did not play well. He only got 45 yards. Pat Mahomes, almost 300 yards passing, 3 TDs. He was the playmaker, and like I said earlier, I do think that it's the weapons around him that give him this ability, and if he's put on a team that does not have these weapons, he will not be nearly as good. But you can't deny the fact that he did score 4 times by himself, and I'll have to give it to him. However, I was only partially joking about the Ryan Tannehill comment. I do think he is definitely an honorable mention for the reasons I said earlier, having a good game in comparison to the last 2 weeks. He was able to pick up that slack from Derrick Henry, obviously not all the way, but he still did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Pat Mahomes takes the cake. He's a phenomenal player. He captained his team very well. I'd also like to give credit to Andy Reid. That's a huge shout out. The guy, no one ever expected him to keep winning. There's probably a lot of doubters out there, even though they were the favorite, that Andy Reid just couldn't pull it through. So I'm happy for them that Andy could get the deal, but give it to Pat Mahomes to lead his team down the field and score.
And I am one of those doubters, but continue.
All right, let's move to this game where the 49ers seriously put a hurting on the Packers. They beat them 37-20. Right at the top here, I think we got to go into Mostert's incredible rushing performance this game. He had 220 yards and 29 carries. So, what factors in this game allowed him to pull off such ridiculous numbers?
So, being a part of that three-headed monster of their three-back offense, he was the one that got started, and they just kept feeding him the ball, and I do think that was definitely a good idea. Tevin Coleman got injured in the beginning of the game, so Mostert had more opportunity, but I do think that was the right call to keep feeding him. He broke multiple different postseason records for both the 49ers and the league. It's just setting records back to back to back to back. You really can't argue with that. He just the offensive line was having a great game. They didn't really have to rely on Jimmy G at all. So I think that's pretty interesting. So, shout out definitely to him. Hopefully he can, keep producing like he has been. But it might be somebody different next week. Who knows?
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. He did a phenomenal job. They really exposed the Packers' run defense for sure. As soon as they saw that they were just establishing the run game off the bat, they just stuck with it, like you said. And like I said a couple minutes ago, how they just them and the Titans flip-flopped their offense, and they just ran the ball majority of the time. Garoppolo, I wanted to see a good game out of him, but with these stats and his performance, I just didn't see it. But credit to Mostert for the carries. He didn't really, and Jimmy Garoppolo didn't really spread the ball out, which I was saddened to see. I know Rob was hyping up Richard Sherman, so given that he got 1 interception, fuck that, whatever. But he definitely got that wrong on his coverage against Davante Adams, so fuck you, Rob.
Listen, okay, listen.
What was your prediction last week, Rob? What was it?
Oh, here we go. You know what?
You predicted Davante Adams to get under 75 yards, and you said just 4 receptions? He had 9 catches for 138. What were you saying, Rob?
Sherman is definitely still the best corner. He takes away a third of the field by himself. There is no way in the world. Davante Adams, like I said, he had a fluke. Also, Sherman was not, solely on him all night. He was helping the rest of the team out, being a team player, and just completely neutralizing a third of the field. And that's what a good corner does. And you'll argue, with me about, Revis and all the other guys that came before him. But I think Richard Sherman is a new cornerback who does take away that third of the field. Anything that comes in that vicinity, most of the time, will get picked up. And Richard Sherman is pretty shut down. Now, I mean, granted, everybody has a good play every once in a while. Devontae Adams, that 66-yard catch, you can't really argue with that. But he did save the touchdown because the other guy that tackled him was not going to catch him, I'll tell you that. So if Richard Sherman did not get his hands on him, they would have scored. So who knows what would have happened from there. But I still think Richard Sherman has the right to talk like he does because he still did not allow a touchdown in this game. And that's really all that matters, is it not?
I don't even think this guy should be talked about in the same sentence as like someone like a Stephon Gilmore or like, any of the historical greats either. I don't know, like a Revis or somebody. Like, he's just not even close. He's fine.
And I think you're an idiot for saying that.
He's a good corner.
He's solid. That is blasphemy. That is blasphemy. No. Not a part of the greats. What do you mean? He is one of the best. And if you're disagreeing with me, you're just ignorant to the fact. You're just ignorant to the fact of good corners. I just can't even argue with you. Then it just doesn't make any sense.
He won't lose his team the game, but he won't do anything too special.
But nobody throws against him. What do you mean?
What's your take, Dan? Do you think he's Rob's overhyping him a bit?
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the league for a while and he's proven himself a decent amount. I think he's overhyped about though. So I'm with you on this one, Sean. I don't fucking stand by Richard Sherman at all. If it was me, I wouldn't pick him to be on my team. So I'm going against you, Rob, on this one. Sorry.
And that's why you would lose all of the playoff games ever if you ever were in the league. There is no way in the world I would not have Richard Sherman on my team. He is a champion, a great leader.
So, talking about another player who played pretty poorly this game, let's go into Aaron Rodgers. So, he looked like a complete bum on some of these plays. I know I called Edelman Butterfingers last week, or actually a couple weeks ago, but, I think I have to move that nickname over to this guy. Like, that was just so bad. He had so many really weird plays. So, what do you think the 49ers did well? This guy's a legendary passer, but, I think it really is more to do with what he did wrong. You tell me what you guys think.
Okay, so if you're going to judge how a quarterback starts the game versus how they end the game, you have to do it on the same level, both between Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. They both had the same start to the game for the most part. Now, obviously, the second quarter went to the Chiefs, but Aaron Rodgers finished the game very strong, in my opinion. I think that he looked like his old self halfway through the game where he needed to do that in the beginning of the game to have a chance. Obviously, he didn't. He looked horrible, in my opinion. Like, I would have to agree with you at the beginning of the game. But the end of the game, he had a very strong finish. He was still very accurate, 31 for 39 yards for almost 300 yards. The 2 touchdowns and the 3 fumbles with 1 loss, it does look kind of bad, I would agree. But I do feel, though, that he finished the game very strongly. I don't think he's a bum by any means. He's still one of the greats. And he's definitely better than Pat Mahomes. So,
Rob. He turned the ball over 3 times. 2 interceptions in that fumble that you just mentioned.
Yeah, but shit happens, though.
You can't fucking do that.
Does it? Shit doesn't happen to Pat Mahomes, apparently.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, but Pat Mahomes, don't even fucking start with me. But Jimmy Garoppolo was definitely disappointing in this game. I know we brought it up earlier, but, only 8 attempts. I mean, I guess you're giving Mostert the ball, but still, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think he's proven himself yet. I guess he did learn from the best, but he needs to have a good game to actually prove that he got there on merit instead of just the team around him. Because I do think the quarterback position is probably one of the most important, except in the eyes of the Chiefs. You got weapons all around, but in the 49ers here, I do think Jimmy Garoppolo needs to prove himself to kind of secure his spot as a long-time starter in the league still.
There's going to be an asterisk next to this Super Bowl appearance for sure. If he doesn't show up big in the Super Bowl, you're going to have to say, he wasn't really a huge part in his team getting here. Like, you could have thrown someone, just take a fan from the stands, new guy every game, like they would have gotten this far, so.
Right. And George Kittle only had 1 reception, the best tight end in the league right now. Granted, that is a product of Jimmy Garoppolo only throwing it and completing it 6 times. But still, Deebo Samuel, 2 receptions. out of 3 targets. I mean, when they were passing the ball, it did look really good, but, you need to see more out of your quarterback. Now, you have a dominant runner. You really can't stop that from happening.
See, now, like I was saying, I just think this game wasn't that exciting to watch. Like we were saying, the Packers came out and were just slow to start. Another horrible first half of the game for them. Like I said, dude, Aaron Rodgers, 3 turnovers, not helping his offense or his team out in any means. It was just horrible positioning for them. Luckily, they came out and tried to fight for their way back from that huge deficit going into halftime. They never got the run game going like we predicted last week. I mean, although their defense, don't get me wrong, their defensive line was very strong in this game in stopping the run. But honestly, Nick Bosa just couldn't get to Aaron Rodgers. He was finessing the pocket. And it was kind of funny to watch.
He still had a sack, though.
Yeah, 1. Nick Bosa is someone that's very explosive that should have had a couple of sacks on that.
You're definitely not wrong.
And especially with a quarterback, traditionally that is a pocket passer. I would have expected a better performance out of their D-line and a lot more sacks on this game. But surprisingly, Aaron Rodgers at his age still has some legs, so that's pretty crazy. I'm happy with Devontae Adams' performance. I mean, I wanted the 49ers to win this game, and they won this game. But I said to watch Devontae Adams, and they definitely got him open at 9 out of 11 targets, almost 140 yards. That was great. It could have helped him out if he got a couple touchdowns, put him in the win category, but they didn't. He did. Besides the 2 interceptions, he did spread the ball out a lot more than he usually does. I stated that last week. I think he only targeted a select amount, maybe 4 or 5 receivers, and now he spread the ball out around 10 different receivers, which is good to see. So, I'm not like completely disappointed with this game. I'm happy that the 49ers won and I predicted them to win, but I would have liked to see a better performance out of the Packers because they definitely didn't really put up much of a fight for them.
100%, and I'm gonna talk to the 49ers defense right now. So the defensive line, I do agree with you. They had a solid performance. Stopping the run. Nick Bosa and Armstead both had a sack. Like you were saying, he's getting old, Aaron Rodgers. He can't move as much. His legs did save him a couple of times, but that defensive line still got to him. And interestingly enough, the leading tacklers on the team were a safety and a cornerback, which, granted, with 31 completed passes, it makes sense, but Kwan Williams had a sack at the cornerback position. So I find that very interesting when that happens. Definitely a dominant player in this game, stopping those Packers from scoring when they need to score. I just think he's a pretty solid player. And then on the other side of the ball, you got my boy Richard Sherman. So that defense is really a tough defense to do anything against. And give credit to Aaron Rodgers, being able to come back to where he had a chance to win, in my opinion, with 10 minutes left, but it dwindled as time went on, obviously.
So, again, really the story of this game was Mostert and his crazy, crazy performance. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about that, but we're going to wrap this up in a sec.
So this guy, coming from, he was undrafted, he was cut by 6 different teams, finally landing in the 49ers, has found his home. He set multiple records tonight. He's the only player in NFL history with at least 200 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. He only came 29 yards short of breaking the all-time postseason game record that is held by Eric Dickerson. However, he broke the most yards in a conference game. He's the only player in history with 150 yards and 3 TDs in the first half of the playoff game, and he set a 49ers record with the most rushing yards and touchdowns in a postseason game. I think he had an absolutely phenomenal performance. You really can't doubt it. He had a hell of a game, and I'm sure he'll carry that into next week.
All right, well, I agree with you on that point, and I think another honorable mention, which is going to shock both you and the listeners, but I'm giving it to Robbie Gould, the 49ers kicker. They don't get enough credit, and the dude was flawless. He had 3 for 3 field goals. The longest was 54 yards and flawless extra point conversions. A field goal, your kicker can go a long way in the game. Obviously, games are decided by field goals, and I think he did a great performance in this game, and he held together. So I'm going to give a shout-out to someone that usually doesn't get a shout-out. Give it to Robbie Gould.
That was a throwaway MVP. What do you mean? In a game like...
He didn't say MVP. He didn't say MVP.
I said honorable mention.
An honorable mention, fine. But still, a kicker, that's his one job. I understand you got to give him some more credit, but in a game that's not that close, to give it to that guy, I don't know.
Come on, man. They don't get enough credit. Give him some credit.
He's just doing his job. He's doing what he gets paid to do every day. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
what
think
about all these
that's
other guys,
expected.
bro?
And unless he was
That's better than you could say for some people like Richard Sherman over there.
Get out of here, dude. He did do his job. Damn it, he didn't let us score.
Can't
him.
even do his job. Like,
Oh, come on. You're a non-believer. I'm definitely going to convert you to the Church of Richard Sherman after this
the
one.
Church of Sherman.
Shithead.
I'm a heretic. Like, so, the way to get there wasn't so entertaining with this Packers game. It was sort of disappointing performance from Aaron Rodgers. For you guys, I'm sure I was pretty happy. I honestly think, ended up with, even going into the playoffs, I would have said this, but I think it's the best Super Bowl matchup we could have asked for. I mean, maybe you guys think the Ravens should have been in there, but I'm super excited about this. I can't imagine a better matchup to watch to determine this season's outcome than the 49ers and Chiefs. We're not going to get into what we think. We'll have a prediction episode right before the game, but it's really going to be an awesome Super Bowl. I think I'm really happy. So, before the Super Bowl, there's going to be the Pro Bowl. That'll be next weekend. But instead of talking about that, because I don't think, I think people are starting to care about it less. The way they do it is really not that interesting. So we're going to be doing a profile on both of the Super Bowl teams, and we're basically going to discuss their road to get to this point. So we'll, talk about how they started in the season, how they look going in, what the expectations were, and how well they lived up to that. So, look forward to that video. We'll release it on next Tuesday. So, final closing note. Want to mention that Dan has officially taken the win over Rob in our predictions contest.
That's fucking right, dude. Get ready.
So you can take a look at our social media next few weeks. We'll have the shirt on there that we prepared for Rob. He hasn't seen it yet, so we'll get to do an unboxing video with him. It's already in the mail, but we're gonna do it probably after the Super Bowl. Is end of the season hurrah. So yeah, that's about it. See you next Tuesday, guys.